something to move my feet to. You wanna learn a thing or two? Let me.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak. You know I blame it on.
And we are coming to you live, yes, live, here on lifestyleradio.ca and as well as at Spreaker. Tonight I'm joined by my East Coast Joint Host, Debbie Stultz-Giffin, and tonight she has brought many guests, as in 3 guests, to talk to you about the new accessing cannabis medical access regulations, also known as the ACMPR. But before we do that, I'm going to have a little talk with Deb. Deb, you there?
Hey, Al. How are you?
Not too bad. And yourself?
I'm doing fairly well, thanks.
Good. Before we bring our guests in to talk about the new program here, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some news that's happened down on the East Coast. A recent challenge, from I understand, from Chris ends down there before the courts.
Well, certainly, Al, I'd be happy to talk about it, at least the little bit I'm allowed to discuss, and certainly I wasn't in court on any 3 of his recent appearances, but last Wednesday he basically led a procession of supporters, including his father, from the Pharmacist Medical Resource Center and Patient Lounge, several blocks down the street to the Spring Garden Provincial Courthouse, at which point he basically said to the sheriff at the courthouse that he felt that the terms of his release in November from the 3rd raid on his dispensary weren't just. And he was basing that, Al, in light of recent raids and bail terms that have happened in Toronto with Aaron Goodwin and Pete Melonhead, I believe it is.
Correct, yep.
They were released with a $500 recognizance, is my understanding. When Chris was released, there was a $2,000 surety provided by a friend, and he had to put up $2,000 as well. And if he didn't carry through on the terms of his release, he could ultimately go to prison. So he went to court in hopes of having the terms of his conditions pared back to more resemble Aaron's and Pete's in Toronto, so that we would have, of course, equal application of the law under the Charter.
Correct. Sounds reasonable.
The prosecutor reviewed the information on Friday because, of course, Chris going into court the way he did totally broadsided them, I'm sure, and the prosecutor was basically caught with his pants down because he didn't have a clue what was going on in Toronto, all the way from Halifax.
Yeah.
So he did his research, didn't agree with Chris's submission, and they were in court today. And basically, Chris is a free man. The surety provided, $2,000 surety provided by his friend has disappeared, but the $2,000 that he had to put up himself remains in place.
Yeah, I understand. So, there's also a media block on some of the super fine detailed information.
Well, that's why I sort of prefaced the whole conversation with where I remark with as much as I'm allowed to get in the conversation.
Yeah.
But certainly, from my understanding, the judge seems to be, I'll be bold enough to use the word impressed with Chris.
Good.
And Chris had several witnesses in court this morning testifying basically on his behalf about the need for the dispensary and the work that he does and
Good.
how it keeps him off the black market.
Yeah, well, he stood up for his rights, and obviously whatever those fine details are, the judge obviously agreed, and like I said, Chris is now a free man.
Well, definitely, and I expect that perhaps next month or the following month he'll be my slated guest, because he's scheduled to appear in, let me see if I get this correct, I believe it's Dartmouth Provincial Court in September for charges on the second raid, if I'm not mistaken, and then he's to appear in Halifax in October for charges stemming in that court jurisdiction.
So we'll be able to have him on the show later down the road and see how everything turns out for him.
Yes, hopefully that will be the case.
Good. Be good to hear from him. All right, well, at this time, let's turn our attention to the ACMPR. We're going to have to get used to all these alphabetical letters they keep throwing at us.
Oh, I know. It's worse than changing passwords.
Yes. Okay, so at this time, I would like to welcome our guests, Tamara Cartwright, Cheryl T. Rose, and Ross Middleton, who are members of the National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis, to the P.A.C.E radio show. Hello, everybody. Are you all there?
Hello.
Yep. Hi there. Yep, here.
Good. That's good that everybody's there. So we got a full pack show of I don't know, what is it, 6 of us here. So it'll be interesting to get everybody's opinion on what's going on here with the ACMPR. And today, as everybody knows, those finer details were released. And I think I'll just pass things over to Deb to get things going as far as the questions, and we'll go along.
Well, it's certainly a wide open topic with the
Sure
thought
is.
of where the heck to begin.
Where do you start? Opinions?
We got good.
I know there are
good or bad?
some good points, and certainly there are many deficits. But Ross, as a member of one of the 4 organizations that were part of the National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis, who submitted a proposal to this committee via Health Canada, what are your thoughts as to how closely a lot of what Health Canada have come up with have paralleled our submission?
You know, I think that I was surprised personally just how close it came, and how in some ways it actually exceeded what we asked for. It did fall short on some parts. We asked that people be allowed to grow their own. We asked that they allowed for designated producers, designated growers, which we got, and we did ask for co-ops, which we did not get. But in a way, the fact that you can have up to 4 licenses in a location, you could have 4 designated producers in one growing location, which means you can have up to 8 licenses in one location. Starts to turn it into like maybe a small co-op, and if you get enough small co-ops running across your region, then you really have a big co-op, don't you? So,
well, I sorry to interrupt, but
okay.
I just noticed just before the show started that Kirk Tusaw pointed out on his Facebook wall that, contrary to what we all thought previously about the capability for 8 patients to be produced for in one location, that actually it's only 4 patients in one location.
Well, I can't argue with Kirk Tusaw. I sure wouldn't do that. Still, 4 is still, it's not bad. I think it's better than what we had before under the MMAR, or at least as good. So, in some ways that's a win, I guess a small win, if you will. But we got the designated producers or designated growers, and we got our personal production. We asked for reasonable plant counts, and what we got was an unlimited plant count. So, that was a huge win there. Where else did we win? I think where we lost the biggest was on doctors as the gatekeepers. We've been Deb's been deluged with calls at the store today with people who can't find doctors, or their doctors won't sign, and that's a big problem. And we asked for a single form that would be basically a confirmation of diagnosis that you could then use to access the growing program or licensed producers or whatever. We didn't get that, but oddly enough, when I got to looking at the form that they did release for the prescription, for the doctor's signature and his prescription, it looked oddly like our our confirmation of diagnosis form, and in fact is used in the way that we asked for it to be used, where you have this one form, and then you can use it to access licensed producers or personal growing or designated grower. So that was kind of a partial win too. So all in all, I'm going to give it a 75% win. I mean, you guys were there. We all collaborated on this. How do you guys feel? Do you think that was like a 75%er or?
Excuse me.
As far as the rest of them on the task force, I imagine everybody would have a different opinion on them, because everybody across Canada, as you said earlier, there's people who are really happy with it, and there's people who are upset with it.
And the one thing that we didn't expect that came out of left field and kind of hit everybody right where it hurts was the 10 years, going back 10 years for a criminal record. That we didn't expect at all, and pretty much was uncalled for, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I only had a chance to really go over the regulations fairly quickly. It's my understanding if a patient had been convicted of production only, they would still be allowed to produce their own medicine?
The way it read was that if you are going to be a designated producer, you actually have to go to the police and have a background check done, and then get the certificate saying you have no record, and send that in with your application to be a designated grower. If you are a personal producer, or you're going to just produce for yourself, you have to tick off a box on the application that says, I have not been charged with a marijuana or cannabis related offense in the last 10 years. But you don't have to back it up with the actual certificate.
Which I think, quite frankly, is unconstitutional, because as somebody with a criminal record that was charged because I didn't have a doctor's signature prior for possession, and then after for helping patients for 4 grams, now I'm in the position where they've renewed my license for the last 4 years with that criminal record, and now I'm under scrutiny to not be able to produce for myself. So how many of us have been charged for our medicine prior in the last 10 years because a doctor signature was not, able to be gotten, and then all of a sudden now you've gotten a signature because even Matt Myrna, for heaven's sakes, had to go through courts to get a signature from a doctor. So is he going to be told that he can't grow his own medicine anymore as well, because he's been charged in the last 10 years too? There are so many of us.
Tamara,
it's not just a charge though, it has to be a conviction.
And it also has to be while you're under the former MMAR. I
was charged 15 days after.
You mentioned something about you had problems getting a doctor's signature, so I was assuming that you weren't
prior to
licensed.
That. Yeah, I was charged twice for possession prior to that. I finally got my license, and 15 days after I got my license, I was charged with sending 4 grams in the mail, which gave me trafficking.
Yeah,
to another MMAR patient, right?
Yeah.
But then again, after that, I was renewed my license, and then renewed my license, and then renewed my license. So now they're telling me now they're not going to renew my license. So where does that leave? Like I said, I'm not the only one out there, I'm sure.
No, you won't be the only one that's out there. And that wasn't part of the MMAR, and now they've made this part of this program. So, yeah, I can see where there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be upset about all that, for sure.
Yeah, well, I think we can all feel for Tamara, and we can all feel for everybody out there who's been unjustly convicted of any cannabis charge, really. I mean, why is anybody being charged for any cannabis crime, especially if they're a medicinal user? And why should that affect, their character or their trustworthiness and make them not capable of growing just for themselves and not abusing the program? I think that's a huge leap that they took that was really unfair to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, it's passing judgment upon us, the fact that we couldn't get a doctor's signature. We already know how hard it was and how hard it's going to continue to be to find a practitioner that is going to actually sign medical marijuana licensing. We've already seen another doctor in Hamilton, 3 months suspension again, another one losing their license. Rob Camerman lost his license. Like, how many other doctors under scrutiny under the College of Physicians in each province? How many doctors are going to back away from this program as badly as before? So it still leaves them with a gateway, whether they're going to sign the diagnosis form or whatever it is. I still have patients here coming to me saying their doctor won't even listen to them. He totally ignores them.
Well, exactly. I saw an announcement a couple of days ago that the Canadian Medical Association, the Canadian Medical Protective Association, who, for our listeners who may not be aware, ensure 95% of the country's physicians, were going to meet to discuss these new regulations, and I'd be awfully surprised if the Canadian Medical Association and CMPA back home grows at all.
Exactly. So here we are, and then here's the thing: we've got this 3 to 5 gram. Kind of like not a cap, right? They're not saying it's a cap, but Health Canada's always just kind of told the doctors, 3 grams, 5 grams a day. So if they decide to, cap us, which is not really a cap, it's not in the regulations as per se a cap, but if they say, okay, well, you got 10 grams a day, well, I'm sorry, we can only give you 5. So it's saying I'm 50% better, which I'm not, and then giving me 5, which brings my plant count down to 15 plants. Okay, I'm at 10 grams a day now, and they're going to say, okay, well, you can only have 5, so you're 50% better. None of us are getting any better. Most of us are terminal with diseases that aren't getting any better.
Yeah, I know under the MMAR program, they did have a recommendation in there for 3 grams, and look at the numbers that some people were getting.
I just recently was trying to help a patient who is an LGS patient, same condition as Haley, and they were trying to find a doctor in their area so that they could meet and talk with for medical cannabis. And so I found one in their area, and between the time of booking the appointment and them getting to see him, the doctor has been scared off of prescribing. And this is a child that is, he's a young man now, thank God, and he has LGS. And he was only using hemp, high CBD. He was using he was just using high CBD, and now he can't get a doctor even close to his area. Why? Because this doctor's been pushed away. So what do these new regulations hold for even patients who are currently, not just past patients, but patients currently and future patients? I mean, where are they going to ease up on the doctors? Are they going to make them allowed to do it, or is the College of Physicians going to continue to pressure the doctors into not signing these?
They are. They're going to keep blocking this program. Like I said, Alberta was hard enough. Now I'm in BC, I'm in Cranbrook. It's a very conservative little area here as well. And I'm telling you, there's not one doctor in Cranbrook that's going to sign anybody, and that's including the one that I've got now. Because I've moved, I can't go back to my doctor in Alberta that signed me because he believes in quality of life. I now have to go to a BC doctor that is not going to sign me. Never mind for 5 grams, 3 grams. Where's she going to? I've got no option. So where does that leave the rest of us that now have to give up our MMAR? We're not covered under the injunction. We're now under the ACMPR, and you have to reapply. So basically, thanks for coming out, and you're screwed. That's how I feel. And I mean, ultimately, there's some good points. I'm not trying to be totally negative. I mean, you know, the fact, but even with the butane, even with the extractions, even with, you know, the fact that Owen Smith went to court and we won the right for the Smith Brewing to have extractions in all forms. So they've changed that ruling in itself by saying no ISO, no butane, no this, no that. You can only, you can't have a criminal record, and you're gonna have 15 plants. Like, that's totally not the MMAR. It's not our freedom. I feel it's totally unconstitutional, and I'm not a happy camper.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what the lawyers have to say once they've read the full document and understand it, to see where it does lie as far as the constitutional end of it all. Tamara, as a person in your position, can you get a designated grower?
Absolutely. I'm sure I probably could get a designated grower. But then again, like I said, I'm back to the same position without a doctor. Only going to be possibly being able to have 5 grams or a maximum, because, you know, even at 10 grams, like, let's face it, most designated growers don't want your 10 gram a day. Hence why everybody, you know, in the past got all these huge prescriptions, because designated growers didn't want some measly 10 plants, right? Now with the program changing and everybody having, you know, like unlimited, if their ability, the doctors are still going to sign them for that. But like I said, a designated grower is an option. It definitely is an option. My husband could probably grow for me, so the loophole is there, because Alvin hasn't had a conviction for 10 years, so he could grow for both of us. That's not the point. There's lots of people out there that don't have that loophole.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's a way to help people in those positions.
Yeah, like those people don't have that loophole.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm sorry, exactly. Is it fair for Tamara to suddenly not be allowed to grow her medicine that she has been producing? No, it is not. Not under any circumstance. Not under any circumstances for anyone to be prosecuted and yet have been allowed, and now suddenly you're not. No, you just took away their rights. That's totally, it's unconstitutional to take away that right when we've already been proven. That's why they created this program, was because it was unconstitutional. So now, isn't it still unconstitutional to take away a right that she just had yesterday, or before the injunction?
Well, exactly. You know, like, I mean, they never asked me before if we had nothing. And even after, like I said, after I was charged with trafficking, after I had my MAR, I mean, it was 15 days after I got my license. And like, it was because I was sending it to other patients that were in need. So it was from myself to another, you know, patient which is exactly, which, you know, is no different than working front counter at a dispensary as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
so in absolute, and I didn't make any money. It was a gift. It wasn't even like there was no money that exchanged hands. So basically, it was ridiculous for me to even be charged. But what we don't understand too, when it comes down to trafficking, passing a joint is trafficking.
Well, in the Smith case, Section 4 and 5, when it deals with trafficking between patients, was removed. It's no longer a
absolutely,
violation.
but now, they don't. They're not doing that. They've actually brought that back in somewhere. I read, and within the regulation or something too.
Yeah, understanding. There was something I had read in the initial thing that came out that said from person to person wasn't allowed, and I've made that part of my editorial that I'm going to come out in Grassroots questioning that, and I did question Owen and Adam on it as well. As far as, you know, what's going on? How can they say that you can't pass from person to person? Well, in that case, in Owen's case, it says Section 4 and 5 when it comes to trafficking has been eliminated.
Absolutely, and that's why I don't understand that whole thing, because even myself, when with the candy here with the RCMP, I went in with the Smith ruling saying, as long as I'm dealing with extraction patient to patient, I'm not breaking the law. And at that point in time, I'm still standing firm on that. Patient to patient extraction, you're not breaking the law. They struck down Section 4 and 5 in that. Yeah, so there's just absolutely, it seems to me to be absolutely ridiculous. This program, like I said, the LPs, okay, granted, you know, before we had, you know, only prairie plant system to, you know, get if we were buying from the government, but now they want us to get our clones from them too.
Well, okay, well, let's get into all that after break. All right? We'll go for break, and then we'll come back into all that situation on where patients have to get their clones and seeds and the whole thing within the program. So, okay, So let's go for break, and when we leave, we're going to be listening to some music by the Hicks and their song "Oh Lord, Keep Me in the Green." I'm sure that's something Tamara is really singing now. And when we return, Debbie and I will continue our talk with Cheryl, Tamara, and Ross. This is the P.A.C.E Radio Show on LifestyleRadio.ca. P.A.C.E Radio Show.
Well, this one goes out to all the soldiers on the street, dealing dimes, nickels, quarters, crossing borders on their feet.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the P.A.C.E Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education